My girlfriend said, "You overthink everything," while wearing his hoodie in our bed. I stared at the drawstring between my fingers like it was some rare specimen under a microscope. It was frayed at the end in a way I recognized immediately. Not my hoodie, not anything I owned, but something I'd seen before on someone else's chest. The navy fabric pooled around her hips, sleeves too long, swallowing her hands when she crossed her arms. Our cheap IKEA lamp threw this soft yellow cone over the duvet, over her bare legs, over that stupid stitched-on logo near the pocket, a small white lightning bolt inside a circle. My stomach dropped so hard I felt a little dizzy. "Ben, seriously," she said, shifting onto her side so the hoodie bunched more, as if she was trying to hide it and failing. Her hair was pulled up into a messy bun, the way she always wore it at night. "Can we not do this right now? It's midnight, you're spiraling." "I'm not spiraling," I said, but my voice came out thinner than I wanted. I ran my thumb along the embroidered circle again. "Where did you get this?" She rolled onto her back and threw an arm over her eyes, like I was being dramatic by existing. "Oh my God, it's just a hoodie. You overthink everything." It was a Thursday night. We'd both worked all day, eaten reheated pasta on the couch watching some trashy dating show neither of us admitted we liked, done the whole couple routine of complaining about our coworkers in the train, and then dragged ourselves to bed like normal people who had to be up at 7. I'm 29, she's 27, and until a few months ago I'd have told you that my relationship with Mia was the safe, solid thing in my life. I'm not a risky person. I write back-end code for a mid-sized fintech startup. I label leftovers with the date. I floss unironically. Mia used to tell me that my overthinking was kind of cute, that it made her feel grounded, like I was always 3 steps ahead making sure we were okay. Somewhere along the line, cute turned into suffocating, and I missed the exact moment that shift happened. We've been together just over 3 years. We met in the most millennial way possible, mutual friends plus an escape room birthday. She was on my team again, weirdly enough. Deja vu, except this time the puzzle wasn't a locked door, it was her. She was the loud one, bossing everyone around, reading each clue out in a dramatic voice. At one point she stood on a chair to reach something on a high shelf and nearly fell. I caught her by the waist, and she laughed this full-body laugh that made me laugh back, even though it wasn't actually that funny. Afterwards our friend group went for drinks. I ended up next to her at the long table, shouting over the music, and we argued about whether pineapple belongs on pizza. Her eyes crinkled when she laughed, little lines fanning out at the corners already even in her mid-20s. I remember thinking I'd like to be the reason those lines got deeper someday. That first year was easy in that drunk, dizzy way new love is. Sleepovers that blurred into brunch, her toothbrush appearing in my bathroom, movies on my crappy second-hand couch, the one that sagged in the middle enough that we always rolled towards each other. She's graphic designer, logos, brand kits, the kind of stuff my brain just sees as vibes, but she sees as grids and color codes. I loved watching her work, the way she'd disappear into her iPad with her tongue sticking out between her teeth. She knew about my anxiety from the start. I told her on our third date, in that casual way people try to package their mental health issues nowadays so it doesn't scare the other person off. "I overthink everything," I said with a self-deprecating laugh. "It's like my brain is a browser with 20 tabs open, and one of them is playing music, but you don't know which." Instead of backing away, she'd leaned closer, bumped her knee against mine under the table. "Good," she'd said. "Someone needs to think things through, or I'd spontaneously move to Spain every 6 months." Fast forward 2 years and that same thing, my constant internal analysis, became the stick she hit me with when I got too close to the truth. The hoodie moment didn't come out of nowhere. You don't go from "we're good" to "why are you wearing another man's clothes in our bed?" overnight. It was more like tiny warnings my brain clocked and then filed under probably nothing, because the alternative made me want to throw up. The first warning was his name. Luca, 30, copywriter, allegedly hilarious, according to Mia. He started at her agency in March. I only know this because for the first month, every story from her day began with "Luca said," or "Luca did." Luca did this accent today in the brainstorm, and I swear I nearly peed myself laughing. Luca's from Perth, but he hates the beach. Can you believe that? Like, why even bother being from Perth? Luca thinks my geometric style is cool. He says it's very Bauhaus meets millennial chaos. I tried to be a supportive boyfriend. I really did. I listened. I laughed at the parts that were clearly supposed to be funny. The first time I met him was at her work's Friday night drinks in June. He was taller than I expected, all long limbs and those dirty white sneakers every artsy guy seems to own. Dark hair, scruffy beard, a couple of tattoos I didn't have enough context to interpret. He wore a navy hoodie with a small white lightning bolt inside a circle on the chest. "Ben, finally," Mia had said, tugging me over by the hand. This is Luca, the chaos goblin I told you about. Luca, this is Ben, my boyfriend. The reason I'm not dead from scurvy because he force feeds me vegetables. Luca grinned, stuck out his hand. His grip was firm, but not in that gross macho way. The famous Ben, he said. Nice to meet you, man. She talks about you all the time. That line should have made me relax. It did a bit. We talked about music, movies, the unconditional rage we both felt towards printers. He was charming in the effortless way some people just are. I didn't immediately hate him, which annoyed me because it would have been easier if I did. At some point in the night, Mia went to the bar to grab another round, and Luca and I ended up next to each other on this little ledge thing by the window. He nudged me with his elbow. She's great, huh? He said, chin gesturing in her direction. She was laughing at something someone else had said, head thrown back. Yeah, I said, she is. Don't let her scare you when she's in director mode, he added. She's all bark, I smiled. I've survived 3 IKEA trips with her, I said. I've seen things. We both laughed. It was fine, normal. The hoodie that would end up in our bed later in the year was the same one he was wearing that night. Navy, a little worn at the cuffs, lightning bolt logo a bit cracked. I noticed it because Mia poked it and said, this thing again. Do you own any other clothes? It's a classic, he said, smoothing the front like it was a beloved pet. Plus, my ex bought it for me. I like it out of spite. Your ex had good taste, Mia said. She told me later that night, lying with her head on my chest, that she thought Luca was good for the team. She liked his energy, his dumb jokes, the way he took feedback. I said I was glad she had someone cool to work with. Things started to change around August. Her hours got longer, not unusual in her industry when a big campaign was coming up, but the vibe was different. She was more switched off when she got home, less present. We'd be sitting on the couch and I'd say something about my day and she'd blink and go, sorry, what? Like I'd interrupted a movie in her head. Her phone, which had always been an extension of her hand, felt like it had a new layer of secrecy. Face down on the table, notifications set to silent. New passcode I only knew because I watched over her shoulder one afternoon when she thought I wasn't looking. Big project, I asked one night when she came in at 9:30 p.m., smelling like office air and something faintly musky I couldn't place. Yeah, she sighed, toeing off her boots. Luca and I stayed back to rework the tagline. Client wants something edgier but also safe. Which, like, pick one. I can warm up dinner, I said, already halfway to the kitchen. She waved a hand. Nah, I grabbed a burger on the way. I'm wrecked, rain check. She kissed my cheek, not my mouth. Little things. One Saturday in September, she went for coffee with a friend from work and came home wearing a hoodie I'd never seen before. Navy, lightning bolt. Is that? I asked, pointing. She looked down like she'd forgotten what she was wearing. Oh, yeah, she laughed. We were at this cafe and I was cold and Luca had it in his car. I'll give it back Monday. I must have made a face because she added quickly, Ben, it's a hoodie, not a chastity belt. We're not in high school. I raised my hands, didn't say anything. You didn't have to, she said, rolling her eyes. You overthink everything. It's one of the things I love about you, but also chill. I told myself I would chill. I told myself that adults can borrow clothing platonically. I told myself that just because every indie movie ever uses girl wearing not her boyfriend's hoodie as a shorthand for cheating, it doesn't mean anything in real life. Except 2 days later, she was still wearing it. Don't you have your entire wardrobe here? I asked, only half joking, when she came out of the bedroom in the hoodie and leggings to go get groceries. She shrugged, it's comfy. You said you'd give it back Monday. I will, she said, it's Monday night. She didn't give it back that week, or the next. Eventually it migrated into the pile of clothes on the chair in our room, that half-dirty, half-clean limbo zone where fashion goes to die. I started seeing it on her on random evenings, the navy flash in my peripheral vision while she brushed her teeth, the way she'd tug the sleeves over her hands when we watched TV. To anyone else, it would have been nothing. To my overthinking brain, it became a symbol. Around this time, I noticed her Instagram habits changed. She'd always been a heavy story poster, coffee, sunsets, flat lays of her keyboard, and a latte with some caption like grind time. Now there were fewer posts, and when there were photos of nights out with her work crew, Luca was in most of them, always near her. Sometimes next to her at the table, sometimes pulling a face in the background, sometimes a blurry arm slung across her shoulders. I'm not proud of it, but I did the deep scroll. I found his profile. Lots of artsy shots of laneways, pints of beer, the occasional selfie with some caption that made me roll my eyes. And yeah, there it was, the hoodie, Multiple photos, actually. Him wearing it at a gig, at a house party, in his kitchen. That stupid lightning bolt. The first time my stomach did the specific drop that night in bed was actually a week earlier, when I saw one of his stories. It was a boomerang of 2 mugs clinking on a table, with a plate of half-eaten cake between them. The angle was such that you mostly saw the mugs in his hand, but off to the side, out of focus, I'd have sworn I saw the edge of Mia's tattoo on the back of a wrist. A simple line drawing of a wave. Caption: brainstorming off-site at some cafe. I replied to her story about it later. Off-site, huh? She left me unseen for an hour before replying, "You're being weird. We were literally talking about work." That was the first time the phrase, "you overthink everything," stopped sounding fond and started sounding like a dismissal. Back to the night of the hoodie in our bed. We'd gone to bed in tense silence because I dared to ask if she was working Saturday again. She'd snapped that she doesn't get to clock out emotionally at 5 the way I do, which strung more than it probably should have. I'd made some retort about how last I checked she still gets paid overtime for staying back and I don't. It was dumb and petty, and we were both tired. By the time we were under the doona, we were in that cold-limbed, back-stern sort of truce. I lay there staring at the ceiling, listening to her scroll on her phone next to me. At some point, she got up, went to the chair, and came back in the hoodie. It shouldn't have bothered me as much as it did, but there was something about seeing her climb into our bed wearing something that had been pressed against his chest, his smell probably still in the fabric, that made my skin crawl. "Can you?" I started, then stopped. "What?" she said, not looking up from her phone. "Just where's your grey jumper?" I asked. "The one you usually wear." She glanced at me then, eyes tired. "In the wash, I think." "So you picked that?" She frowned. "Picked what?" "The hoodie." She stared at me for a beat, then let out this little disbelieving laugh. "Are you actually jealous of a piece of cotton?" "I'm not jealous of the cotton," I said. "I'm jealous of the man who took it off and gave it to you." She scoffed. "You know he has a girlfriend, right? Like, serious girlfriend, relax." "Yeah," I said. "I also know he messages you at 11 p.m, and you laugh so hard you nearly fall off the couch." Her face hardened. "So we're policing what time my coworkers can text me now." "That's not what I said." "It's what you meant," she shot back. "You act like you're okay with my job, my friends, my life. But the second there's someone you feel threatened by, you make it weird. You overthink everything." The way she said it that time, flat, like a diagnosis, made something cold settle in my chest. I reached out and pinched the fabric between thumb and forefinger, holding it up like evidence. "I'm not overthinking this," I said quietly. "This is literally his hoodie, on your body, in our bed." She yanked the hem out of my grip. "And we were at his place after work. My shirt got wine on it. He offered me this. I took it. End of story. Not everything is a conspiracy theory, Ben." "You were at his place?" She rolled her eyes. "Oh my God, yes, his flat with like 5 other people from work. We were working on the pitch deck and then we ordered pizza. It wasn't some clandestine rendezvous. Do you hear yourself?" Something about that sentence, "do you hear yourself?" triggered this familiar shame deep in my gut. I've heard versions of it my whole life. From my dad when I'd ask a third follow-up question. From teachers when I'd triple-check an answer I already knew. From exes when I'd express worry that they were pulling away. The implication was always the same. Your perception is wrong, your instincts are off, you are too much. So I shut up. We rolled away from each other. I tried to will myself to sleep. My brain, of course, ignored the memo and went into full forensic mode. I pictured her at his place in that hoodie laughing. I pictured her taking it off, not in a sexual way, not even at first, just in that casual, intimate way people do in someone else's home. I pictured him watching. I hated myself for picturing any of it. At some point, I must have fallen into that half-sleep, half-anxiety dream state, because the next thing I remember is the vibrating buzz of her phone under the pillow between us. She made a small noise, fumbling for it. The screen lit up. I saw just enough in the blue glow, the name Luca High, when had she added the lightning bolt, and the preview of a message, "Still buzzing from your pitch today. You killed it." She turned the phone away from me, thumb moving quick, replying. I lay there staring at the wall, heart pounding. The next day, while she was in the shower, I crossed a line I'd been inching towards for months. I took her phone off the bathroom bench, sat on the closed toilet lid, and unlocked it with the passcode I shouldn't have known. My hands were shaking so badly I nearly dropped it. My brain was screaming at me that this was wrong, that snooping broke trust too, but all my other options felt like arguing with a brick wall. I needed data. I went straight to messages. Her chat with me was at the top. Under that, Mum, group chat read, housemates, a couple of names I recognized, and then there was Luca High, pinned. My thumb hovered, I could still back out. I could close my eyes, put the phone back, pretend I'd never been this guy, sitting on a toilet lid in last night's t-shirt, ready to dig through his girlfriend's private messages. Then I thought about that you overthink everything in our bed, the hoodie, the months of gaslighting myself. I tapped the thread. It opened to a photo she'd sent yesterday, a selfie in the agency bathroom mirror, hair done, eyeliner sharp. Caption, client face on skull. Under it his reply, 1010 would sign retainer contract. Then on the line below, seriously though you look insane, in a good way. I scrolled up. At first it was harmless work stuff. Memes about clients, complaints about deadlines, the kind of camaraderie you expect from coworkers in a creative field. If I'd looked only at the first few weeks, I could have believed it was platonic. Then slowly, the tone shifted. Little inside jokes that had nothing to do with work. Luca, do you ever feel like you're faking being an adult and someone's going to call you out? Mia, daily. That's why I wear blazers, so at least I look competent while panicking. Luca, you always look competent, even when you're screaming about fonts. Mia, or, charm turned up to 11 today. Luca, only for you, boss. I scrolled further, my stomach twisted. There were late-night messages timestamped 1:13 a.m., 2:47 a.m., times when she'd been too tired to talk to me. Luca, can't sleep, brain doing its thing. Mia, same, today was rough. Luca, talk to me, what's in the blender? Mia, everything, work, Mum's Ben being Ben. My thumb hovered there for a second, lungs suddenly tight. I scrolled. Luca, lol, what did Overthink King do now? Mia, he got weird about me borrowing your hoodie. Luca, you serious? Mia, yeah, he's convinced it means something. Luca, or maybe he just knows you look too good in it. Mia, shut up. Luca, no, but FR, if he's threatened by cotton, that's a him problem. Mia, he's sweet, just anxious, I feel bad sometimes. Luca, you're not his therapist. Mia, tell that to my evenings. Luca. The conversation kept going, complaints about me, little digs at my anxiety, my routines, my lack of spontaneity, jokes about how if she disappeared for a night I'd probably build a spreadsheet about it. Seeing your own flaws through the eyes of your partner is one thing. Seeing them dissected with someone else, someone who doesn't have to live with the rest of you, the good parts, that's a special kind of humiliation. And then a week later in the thread, the first message that made my blood go cold. Luca, still at the office, feel like throwing myself out the window. Mia, don't, that's my favorite window. Luca, come over instead, I'll buy you dumplings. Mia, you're bad for me. Luca, yeah, but I'm cute. Mia, fine, 20 mins. Under that, a heart emoji from him. Date, the same night she'd texted me running late, finishing up a deck with the team, don't wait up X. There were more references to your side of the bed, when she clearly wasn't talking about ours. Jokes about how his place was our unofficial second office. Then further down, one that knocked the breath out of me. Mia, I'm in so much trouble if he ever sees this thread. Luca, then don't let him. Mia, he overthinks everything as it is. If he saw this, he'd probably have a stroke. Luca, we'll be careful, promise. I don't know how long I sat there staring at that screen. My fingers had gone numb, pins and needles spreading up my arms. The shower was still running, she was humming under the water, some pop song. It felt like there were two versions of reality layered on top of each other like tracing paper. One where I was the silly paranoid boyfriend making a big deal out of nothing. One where my instincts had been quietly right for months, and everyone else had decided that made me the punchline. I kept scrolling, I wish I'd stopped. There were no explicit sexts, not in the messages I saw. Maybe she'd been smart enough to move that to another app, but there were enough innuendos and half-sentences to make the picture clear. Mia, my legs still hurt from last night, I hate you. Luca, lies, your legs love me. Mia, you're disgusting. Luca, you weren't saying that when message deleted. Mia, STOPPP. Date 3 weeks ago. The same weekend she told me she was absolutely wrecked from back-to-back meetings and just wanted to have a quiet one at Sarah's. My vision blurred. I realized I'd been holding my breath and exhaled shakily, the sound loud in the steam-filled bathroom. I was suddenly aware of how ridiculous the situation was. Me in my boxers, phone in hand, sitting on the toilet like some clown from a dark comedy, the sound of water like white noise. I locked the screen, put the phone back exactly where it had been. My legs were so shaky when I stood up that I had to grab the edge of the sink. In the mirror, my face looked pale, eyes too wide. For a second, I didn't recognize myself. I splashed cold water on my cheeks twice, 3 times, until the shock of it grounded me enough to function. Then I walked out, sat on the edge of the bed, and waited. When Mia came out of the bathroom, towel around her body, hoodie back on, she smiled automatically when she saw me sitting there. That smile faltered when she clocked my expression. "What?" she asked, voice wary. I held her gaze. "How long have you been sleeping with him?" The blood drained from her face so fast it was almost morbidly fascinating. The little muscle in her jaw twitched. "What?" she repeated, weaker. "Luca," I said, "how long?" She clutched the towel tighter around herself like it was armor. I don't know what you think you saw, but... In your messages, I cut in. There was no point pretending I hadn't looked. We were way past worrying about the etiquette of phone privacy. How long? Her eyes filled with tears so quickly it felt rehearsed. You went through my phone. That's what you're focusing on? I asked, incredulous. My voice cracked on the last word. Answer the question, Mia. She sank down onto the chair, the towel hitching up, hoodie swallowing her torso. For a second I thought she was about to start some elaborate lie. Instead, she exhaled, long and shaky. Since August, she said quietly. I laughed, it came out sharp and humorless. August, I repeated. So 4 months, she winced. It wasn't like... Like what? I snapped. All the control I'd been trying to maintain slipped for a second. Like you fumbled and accidentally landed naked on him, multiple times. Tears spilled over, she wiped at them angrily. You're being cruel. I stared at her in disbelief. Cruel. You are, she insisted, voice trembling. You're not even, you're just going straight for the jugular. I'm trying to. To what? I asked. Soft launch your confession. She made this broken sound, half sob, half laugh. I made a mistake, she said. Okay, a huge one, I know that. I've been trying to work out how to tell you without you collapsing in on yourself. You were going to tell me, I said flatly. Yes. Before or after I married you. She flinched like I'd slapped her. For a second I didn't understand why that word hurt so much. Then I remembered we started vague conversations about next year and maybe a small ceremony. It wasn't imminent, but it was there, hanging in the doorway of our future. I wasn't going to marry you without telling you, she said. I'm not a sociopath. Just a liar, I said. She met my eyes then. And for the first time that night I saw something like backbone there instead of just guilt. Yes, she said. I lied, repeatedly, because every time I thought about saying it, I pictured this exact look on your face and I couldn't handle being the reason you broke, so I kept putting it off, and in the meantime I kept doing the thing I knew I had to tell you about. She laughed bitter. You'd think, as a strategist, I'd be better at timing. There's this thing that happens when someone explains their shitty behavior in a way that you can understand rationally. Part of you almost wants to comfort them, because you can see the human mess behind the actions. But the rest of you remembers their choices hit you like a truck. That's not a strategy, I said. That's cowardice. She nodded, tears tracking silently down her cheeks now. Yeah, she said, I know. Silence stretched between us. The lamp hummed faintly. The cat, oblivious to human disaster, hopped up onto the bed and curled into a circle. Do you love him? I asked, hatting myself for wanting to know. She stared at the carpet. I don't know, she said after a long pause. I love the way he makes me feel. Which is? Light, she whispered. Stupid, irresponsible, like I'm not holding everything up all the time. At work, I'm the adult in the room. Here, I'm also kind of the adult. With him, I'm allowed to be the mess. And he doesn't look at me like I'm broken when I am. That last jab hit exactly where she meant it to. My anxiety, the therapy, the nights I'd sat at this same bed's edge, in pieces over some work thing or family thing, and she'd held me. I thought we'd both been allowed to take turns being the mess. Apparently in her narrative, my mess had outweighed hers. Do you love me? I asked. Yes, she said immediately, voice cracking. God, Ben, yes, that's never been the question. It's kind of a question now, I said. She shook her head helplessly. I don't know how to explain it so it doesn't sound like bullshit, she said. I love you, I never stopped. I also got addicted to how I felt when I was with him. Both things happened. I hate that they did. I hated myself every day. I still kept doing it. That's on me. There it was, the closest thing to accountability I was probably going to get. No, it just happened. No, I tripped. She owned it. It didn't make it hurt less. So when you called me Overthink King in your messages, I said the words tasting sour. Was that foreplay or just character assassination? She flushed. You read that, she murmured. I read enough, I said. Enough to know you've been using my brain against me. Every time I had an instinct, you told me I was imagining things. Every time something didn't add up, you told me I overthink everything. Turns out I didn't think enough. That's not true, she said sharply. You always think, you just think the worst of yourself. And maybe not enough of you, I shot back. We went around like that for a while. Everyone does, I think, in these conversations. The cheater cycles through guilt, justification, self-disgust, sometimes anger. The cheated-on person cycles through hurt, rage, bargaining, weird moments of dark humor. At one point, she tried to say, we were unhappy, and my brain latched onto the plural pronoun like a stray nail. We, I asked, because I don't remember voting for solution, fuck coworker. She laughed, hiccuped, then sobbed harder. You're horrible, she said, but there was no real heat in it. I thought about all the times I'd dismissed my own discomfort. The night she got home at 3 a.m. because the brainstorm went late and then we got tacos. The weekend she said she was staying at her friend Sarah's but posted a story that, when I looked closely, clearly was Sarah's kitchen. My therapist's gentle voice, Ben, sometimes anxiety is trying to protect you from something real. And Mia's voice, sharper, you overthink everything. Did you ever plan to stop? I asked quietly when the tears subsided a little. She wiped her nose on her sleeve, Hoodie swallowing her hand. Yeah, she said. We'd talked about it, me and him. You know how messed up that is. Having break-up conversations with your affair partner about going back to your actual partner. She took a shuddering breath. He asked me once if I'd leave you. I said no. I told him I wasn't going to blow up my life. He said too late. The weird thing was, I felt a tiny, irrational flicker of gratitude that at least one person in that mess had clocked the gravity, even if he'd still gone along with it. So what now? I asked. What does your ideal scenario look like? I say, wow, that sounds difficult, babe. We cuddle, we go to couples therapy, you block him. I learn to not overthink when your phone lights up at 1 a.m. I don't know, she said, voice small. I don't have an ideal scenario. Every version in my head ended with you finding out and hatting me. Mission accomplished, I said softly. Her face crumpled. She dropped her head into her hands. Please don't, she whispered. Please don't say you hate me. I sat there for a long moment, staring at the pattern on the rug. A little piece of my brain stood off to the side taking notes. So this is what it feels like. I've read so many of these posts, never thought I'd be writing one. I don't hate you, I said eventually, and realized it was true. I hate what you've done. I hate who you've been lately. I hate that you took my biggest fear, that I'm just some paranoid broken guy who drives people away, and turned it into a shared joke in someone else's pillow talk. But I don't hate you. She looked up, hope flickering in her eyes. Then we can. That doesn't mean I can stay, I cut in. The words surprised us both. I hadn't fully made that decision until it came out of my mouth, but once it was said, something in my chest lined up with it. Ben, she said, voice cracking, wait, we can fix. We can work on ourselves, I said. You clearly need to work out why you set fire to something you say you love. I clearly need to work on why I keep letting people convince me my reality is wrong, but I don't think we get to do that together right now. She shook her head like she could dislodge the idea. You're overreacting, she said weakly. People come back from this all the time. There are literally podcasts about it. We can do therapy. We can reset. I'll quit my job. I'll never see him again. I'll burn the hoodie, just don't throw away 3 years. You already threw away 3 years, I said softly. I'm just refusing to throw good years after bad. She opened her mouth, closed it, swallowed. Where are you going to go? She whispered. My brother, for now, I said. I'd already half-planned that contingency in my more anxious nights, which annoyed me. It was like my subconscious had been making a bug-out bag, while my conscious brain went, everything's fine. We talked logistics then, robotic, mechanical. Who'd sleep where tonight? She insisted she'd take the cooch. I ended up crashing on a friend's spare mattress instead, because the idea of sleeping in our bed another second made my skin crawl. What to tell the landlord if I moved? Out, how to divide the furniture we jointly picked out at IKEA on that rainy Sunday that had felt so domestic and safe at the time. At one point, she pulled the hoodie tighter around herself. Don't wear that, I heard myself say. She stopped, looked down like she'd forgotten it was on, then silently pulled it over her head and dropped it on the floor. Underneath, she was just in a tank top and underwear, suddenly much smaller. I picked the hoodie up between 2 fingers. It smelled faintly of her perfume and something else, cologne, maybe his detergent. I wanted to set it on fire in the bathtub. Instead, I walked it to the front door, opened it, and dumped it in the outside wheelie bin. The lid shut with a heavy plastic thud. It felt symbolic and also very, very inadequate. That was 3 weeks ago. Since then, I've moved into my brother's spare room. My clothes are in mismatched drawers. My cat is confused but adaptable. I go back to the apartment in bursts at times we've agreed on to pack my stuff. We've decided I'll be the one to move out. Her work and social life are more anchored to that part of town, and I don't have the energy to fight over real estate. Our mutual friends know something happened. A few know the full story. People have opinions. Some think I should have stayed and tried to work it out. It was just an affair, one guy said, way too casually. Not like she stabbed you. Others are very team nuclear. Once a cheater, always a cheater, my cousin declared, like she was reading from a bumper sticker. My therapist says less in slogans and more in questions. What would staying cost you? She asked last session. And what does leaving make possible? Staying in my head would look like a permanent asterisk over every moment. A quiet voice in the back of my skull going, and now imagine this, but with a secret thread you're not seeing. I know myself. I know my brain. I would analyze every late night, every silence, every sorry my phone died. And even if she was being 100% faithful, I'd still have to wrestle down the ghosts of those messages. Leaving, on the other hand, costs me the version of my future that had Mia in it. Kids with her eyes, Sunday mornings in our kitchen, growing those little laugh lines deeper. It's not a decision I've made lightly. It hurts in ways I don't have tidy language for yet. But it also gives me something I didn't realize how much I'd lost, the ability to trust my own perception. When she said, "You overthink everything," she meant, "Your discomfort is invalid." When Luca called me Overthink King, he meant, "We can laugh about this because you'll never know." My anxiety doesn't always tell me the truth. Sometimes it lies. Sometimes it turns minor issues into catastrophes. I'm not about to pretend it's a superpower. But in this case, the knot in my stomach, the unease at the hoodie, the late-night text previews, they weren't just the static of a malfunctioning brain. They were data, and I kept letting other people convince me to throw that data out. If there's a point to all this rambling, it's maybe this. There's a difference between overthinking and noticing, between anxious spirals and pattern recognition. If someone you love consistently dismisses your feelings with your overreacting, or you overthink everything, especially when those feelings are about concrete behaviors that have changed, that's not them helping you manage your mental health. That's them telling you their comfort matters more than your reality. I don't know what happens next. There's no neat bow here. Mia and I are still untangling bank accounts and utilities. We might do a couple of joint therapy sessions, not to reconcile, but to close things out in a way that isn't just unfinished screams and text messages, or we might not. I do know that I don't want to be in a bed again with someone wearing another person's secret on their skin while telling me my brain is the problem. I'd rather be alone in a tiny room in my brother's house, surrounded by mismatched furniture and my own thoughts, than in a gorgeous queen bed being told to ignore the obvious. So yeah, my girlfriend said, "You overthink everything," while wearing his hoodie in our bed. For once, I'm glad I didn't listen.